to announce the arrival of a new and innovative tool to combat violent crime in Beaumont. Thanks to our excellent relationships with our federal law enforcement partners, specifically ATF, United States Attorney's Office, and Houston HIDA, we have received a NIBIN system, National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. The Beaumont Police Department, along with its federal and local law enforcement partners, are doing everything possible to continue to prevent and solve crimes involving firearms in Beaumont. The acquisition of this law enforcement tool is the latest weapon we will be using to address issues of violent crimes in Beaumont.
Good morning. I'd like to take just a minute to explain to the layperson what the NIBIN system does, what this technology does. It basically allows law enforcement agencies to recover shell casings at a crime scene. They'll bring them back to the police department. They'll image it in a machine. It'll basically give it a digital signature. That signature then will be stored in a database, which is the NIBIN network. If that same gun is used in another crime scene and shell casings are left behind, law enforcement will recover those, come back to the police department, image those, and again, load it into the database. That database then can connect those two shell casings, knowing that was fired from the same gun. So now that when we have multiple incidents involving the same gun, we're aware of that. Prior to this, law enforcement was blind to that. So specifically here in Beaumont, they will recover the shell casings. They will image them here in-house. That image will electronically go down to our National Correlation Center in Alabama. There's two things that a correlation center does with that. One is quality control, and the second then is trying to match that against other shell casings in the database. So wherever, whether it's Houston or San Antonio or Austin, if that gun was used in another crime, they're going to be able to match that and know that it was the same gun used here in Beaumont. Across South Texas now, ATF has put 10 of these sites. So we have coverage in all of our areas, our big municipal areas in South Texas. And just to give you a little idea of what's happened in the last couple of years, since 2016, where we really started to use this crime gun intelligence, we've made 268 arrests of shooters just linked from NIBIN-linked shootings. So in other words, people that we didn't know were involved in multiple shootings. Because of NIBIN, it linked them all together, and ATF was able to make arrests on those. So 268 of those shooters are no longer on the streets here in Texas, and 473 open shooting cases were cleared as a result of that. Last year, we made 135 arrests. We took 135 shooters off the street last year and cleared 190 shootings. So those accomplishments do a few things. Number one, most importantly, it takes shooters off our streets and out of our communities. Number two, it clears cases that otherwise we wouldn't have known about and allows police departments to have more solvability in their open shooting cases. And three, and just as important, is for all those victims now, when we know that a gun is used in multiple incidents and we're able to clear multiple incidents, all those victims have closure now because there's been someone arrested and held accountable for those shootings. For an example, in Houston, we're having cases where 8, 10, 11 armed robberies are being committed with the same individual with the same gun. Prior to this technology, we would have never known those were all connected. So now we're able to solve 8 or 9 robberies at the same time and take a shooter off the street. And what we like to say is that we want to get shooters off the street before they become homicide suspects. That's the best way to lower our homicide rates in all of our major cities in Texas and across the country. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate being here on behalf of the United States Attorney's Office, and I know on behalf of prosecutors at the state level all over this area. We are very appreciative of having this resource here. This is an important resource for law enforcement. When I heard Mr. Malinowski talk about 190 cases just last year that were resolved because of NIBIN in Texas, linking shell casings to guns and making arrests, that's 190 violent criminals off the street. And it's a priority of the Department of Justice nationwide, certainly a priority of the Department of Justice in the Eastern District of Texas, in my office, to focus on violent crime. And it's people that have guns, people that use guns. And so this really goes to the heart of our violent crime reduction effort. So it's really a great opportunity for local law enforcement agencies in the area to work through Beaumont PD, through the ATF, to submit these guns, to take these criminals off the street. Really appreciative of the HIDA program that helped fund this. Mr. McDaniel helped really drive the money that it takes to get there. These are national funds that the Department of Justice, through the HIDA program, has put into the Eastern District of Texas. So we're really appreciative of that. Henry Goddard would be proud of how far we have come. Henry Goddard was the first to use this kind of evidence back in 1835. At least ballistic evidence began in 1835 with a detective in London who found a bullet that was used in a murder and saw a defect in it that could be linked to the form that was used to pour the bullet, and he put those together and found the person that had the form and matched that bullet back in 1835, and we have come a long way. Now we have databases that create fingerprints of shell casings and match them to guns, and so over that time period we have developed really some high-tech ways of attacking the violent crime. And juries expect this kind of evidence. It's, they see shows that are solved, crimes are solved in 30 minutes and DNA comes back like that, and we're able to catch criminals with high-tech means. It's not always that way. Mostly it's just hard police work. But it's nice to have the kind of evidence and kind of technology that this kind of that the NIBIN program provides, and it's important for juries to see that we do have the ability to create fingerprints out of guns, and so we're excited for this. I want to thank the ATF for the resource, for providing that. It's going to make our job as prosecutors a lot easier. I want to thank the Beaumont PD for being a great friend to federal law enforcement, a great partner. I've been very impressed in the time I've been here the way that our state and local work together with the federal agencies, and this is a continuation of that. So we're very excited about the resource. Oh, I want to ask that the message needs to get out there to these local law enforcement that haven't had this resource. They need to use it. It doesn't do any good if we have guns and shells in crimes if they don't get entered into the system. And so there will be an outreach, I know, over the next few weeks from Beaumont PD and from the ATF to the smaller law enforcement agencies, making them aware of what this resource is. They know, but now it's close. They can drive their weapons and the shell casings a lot closer in Beaumont, and so we want them to really use this resource and make sure that that we get our money's worth out of it. So thank you very much.
We have just started online with our NIBIN, so we don't have any results yet. I know you at some point we're very, very, very pleased with the potential that this machine affords us. And also, we're very proud of our relationship with the ATF, U.S. Attorney's Office, and HIDA, and also the District Attorney's Office. Also, we are very proud of our Criminal Investigation Division. They're doing a heck of a job in solving these violent crimes, and this tool right here will just make it a whole lot better for all of us. And we sure appreciate the opportunity to go forward in fighting our battle against violent crime. We will, Haley, why don't we turn over to you, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you. So that's going to close the press conference portion. What we're going to do now, if you guys want to grab your cameras.
We have questions. Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for anyone up here? Any questions? Okay. Y'all go ahead with the questions, and then we'll move into the ID room.
So you mentioned that the information will go to a database in Alabama, and then it'll be matched there. What is in that database?
So that is what the NIBIN database is, and that database contains, again, the electronic images of shell casings from across the area.
From just in Texas?
Well, so there's several different areas around the country, but no, it's more than just Texas. So it's Texas and surrounding states. And then if we have a reason to believe that it could be associated with a crime in another state, like in Florida, then we can also have it compared to that region of the country. Eventually that will become a nationwide search, but right now there's regions of the country just to keep their databases in a manageable format.
So I know obviously that this requires that a gun be used at least twice, you know, to have a track. How often does that happen where one gun will be used in multiple crimes?
Well, I mean, quite often, it doesn't necessarily have to be used twice, because it could be used in a crime yesterday, and then law enforcement does a search warrant or traffic stop and recovers a firearm today, and recovers that gun, they'll test fire that, and then those two will match. So it doesn't always have to be used, but in our cases, in our experience in the last 3 years, really using this crime gun intelligence aggressively, you know, it's used in multiple, 2s and 3s, and up to, 12 different shooting incidents.
It was brought up, other agencies, you'd like to see them get involved with this, how are they about doing that? Do they contact the U.S. Attorney's Office, do they contact you, or?
They should contact ATF, their local ATF office, or if they're in the surrounding areas, the Beaumont Police Department. Either one of those can set up a process for them to be able to enter their test fires and shell casings into the system.
Is there a particular number of Beaumont cases that you have now entered into the system? With using this, is there a particular number of Beaumont cases that you guys have submitted into the system for testing?
Do you know what the number is?
No, I don't know the exact number. Chewy, do you have any idea?
I will tell you that they've only been up and running for about a week.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be a big number yet. In a year from now, if we come back to you, we'll have a more realistic number of both shell casings that went in, shell casings that matched, and then the number of people that are arrested as a result of that. So we are literally just getting them started right now on putting their stuff into the system. And this question came up earlier in a discussion. We don't necessarily go backwards because it just clogs up the system. And what we find is that, and this is from doing this for several years across the country, is that we want that information from shootings that happened in the last 60 days. And then we want, the most important thing is we want it back to the investigators within 48 hours. Because if, as soon as, the earlier we can get back to investigators, the better chance that they're going to be able to make a case. If it doesn't get back for months to an investigator, then videotape is gone and witnesses are gone and all those things. So that's why we don't necessarily go back historically, because we want shootings and guns or shell casings or guns that have been recovered in the last 60 days and then going forward, and we want those results back within 48 hours. So that's the game changer. That's what's really changed with NIBE in the last few years, is the comprehensive collection and entry by local agencies, but then the results coming back within that 48-hour window.
Yes, ma'am.
One more. And then the 268 arrests, 483 open cases, this was in Houston, right? The numbers that you gave earlier?
So, I'm sorry, since 2016,
Okay.
in South Texas, okay? So now we have 10 sites. That has been growing over the last 3 years. Now we're up to 10 sites. But since 2016, there was 268 shooters arrested and 473 shootings cleared. Just last year, and this is in fiscal, which is our federal calendar, fiscal year 2019, there was 135 arrests with 190 shootings cleared. And that's just in the Houston Field Division, so just South Texas. The other number you heard was 191 shooters arrested throughout Texas. That includes both our Houston and our Dallas Field Division. There's 191 shooters arrested directly as a result of NIBE and linking shootings together.
Do you have an estimate of about how much gun violence is making up the violent crime in Beaumont?
No, it's a majority of the, when you talk about violent crime, the majority of the violent crimes are involving use of a firearm.
Okay, thank you guys. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and grab your cameras and we'll go to ID so you guys can see the system in action.
Real quick, before y'all do that, does anybody need a one-on-one with the gentleman in the back?